What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode episode number 62 today for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 4. If you did miss the last episode uploaded yesterday, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, of course, the start to the brand new season, Season 4 in the Red Bull racing car. Be sure to go check out how our first race went. Very obviously action-packed Australian Grand Prix, and here's hoping the same can be said for this Chinese Grand Prix coming up. For practice, though, it started off raining in FP1, so not much action happened in that first practice session, as you would imagine, but then we moved through into the drier sessions and ploughed on with the resource points. Of course, now being in a new team, we started from 0 at the Australian Grand Prix. We've already got a fair few resource points, actually, obviously after that entire race weekend, but not enough to fully get an upgrade quite yet. Hopefully by the end of this episode, we will be purchasing our very first upgrade for the team. But you can see, if you look closely on these replay cameras going through practice, we've got the number 1 on our shark fin and also on the front of the car now. Obviously, having won the Drivers' World Championship last time out, we are now allowed to change our number to number 1. I forgot you could actually do that in the settings. I then did it yesterday, actually. I pre-recorded these next 2 episodes of F1 2017 career mode, but then in the end also you guys were all commenting that below in yesterday's video, but I'd already made the change anyway. But yeah, there we go. So we've now got that championship winning number 1 on the car, and we'll move through then swiftly into qualifying there, and we'll see how our car does, and also that Renault we saw briefly of Nico Hülkenberg. Of course, Hülkenberg, the race winner last time out. Somewhat surprising. Obviously, he got very lucky with that one-stop strategy, so we'll see. Really, it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of all moves now to this race weekend. Obviously, Australia and China, very different circuits, different kind of vibe. China, very front-limited circuit. Australia, obviously, a street circuit, so you got to think maybe things may come back towards the usual suspects. Ferrari, Mercedes didn't really turn up that much at Australia, and it's pretty much a case of, obviously, I seem to be the fastest car out on track around Australia, but then my strategy just didn't pay off, and then Hülkenberg was able to get into that win zone and just kind of plow away from first place. So we'll see how that dynamic's going to change here into China, and that'll be very intriguing indeed. So you can see into Q2, we're opting for the set of super soft tyres, actually not going to go for that kind of alternate strategy of using the second softest, because through practice and the first part of qualifying, I didn't seem that comfortable around the Chinese circuit, and I thought I just needed that super soft tyre to get us through. Then in the end, actually, it's my teammate Daniel Ricciardo that straps on the set of soft tyres, so I was actually very surprised and taken aback that my teammate was the one that tried the alternate strategy. Usually I never see my teammate trying the maybe quote-unquote more clever strategy and trying to be clever with it. So that was kind of surprising to see Ricciardo do that, so fair play to Ricciardo. Maybe kind of shows I maybe made an error there in doing that, but also at the same time, this now means we maybe punch her at the start of the Grand Prix. I don't believe there's going to be any rain for the start of the Grand Prix. There may actually be some at the end of the race. We'll have to note out for that, and that actually may change things around for how we do the strategy. But then we move into Q3 as the sun comes down here then in Shanghai. At the moment, Lewis Hamilton on provisional pole position. We come across the line. It wasn't an amazing lap time, and really it reflects and shows in opposition. P8 only. You could see through the S section just wasn't as tight and as committed as I thought it could have been looking back at that lap, and Daniel Ricciardo managed to get into P4 and Hülkenberg in P3. So yeah, really bad day in the office here on Saturday in qualifying. I mean, Raikkonen's there with us in P7, so all round a kind of odd session. Jolyon Palmer managing to overtake us in that Q3 session in P6 then, just behind Valtteri Bottas. So the Renault car seemingly still working pretty damn well over 1 lap pace. We'll have to see how the race pace goes, but Hamilton on pole, Sebastian Vettel in second place, so here's hoping for his sake he doesn't have an issue. And actually Ferrari as a whole, remember from Australia, they had another calamity of a race and basically continued on their bad luck from Abu Dhabi, so they need to kind of buck up today and kind of, you know, put themselves on the board actually in terms of any points paying positions. And the same can be said for the likes of Hamilton, who kind of got stuck obviously with the engine penalty at Australia and couldn't really make the most of what it was a front row start before the penalty. So let's go and take a look at the full grid then, and then we'll get into this race and see how we can do from P8.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas, and Palmer, Raikkonen, and a Red Bull, Perez, and Roman Grosjean, Ocon, Kvyat, Felipe Massa, and Magnussen, Alonso, Stroll, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Pascal Wehrlein. Ericsson and Carlos Sainz starts from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
As I mentioned earlier on in the video then during qualifying, the strategy today is going to be a bit of an odd one for everyone in terms of the end of this race. You can see one icon of rain is forecast, so that could turn out to be just like Austria last season when it was damp enough to cause a bit of an issue for everyone, but not damp enough to go to the full intermediate tyres. So you're going to have to keep an eye on that, and that may kind of just throw a nice kind of spanner in the works for all of us. And finally, as usual, pretty much become the standard thing we do, filling up a little bit of fuel. Not as much as I did in Australia, because Australia did kind of point out to me how good the fuel efficiency of this Red Bull is due to all the AI upgrades that Red Bull did as a team when I wasn't with them in the first 3 seasons. So not as much, but still some extra fuel in the tank there to try and hopefully attack these 7 guys ahead of us as we go to 5 red lights from P8 on the grid for round number 2 of Season 4 at the Chinese Grand Prix. We're underway here in Shanghai, and it is a good start for us compared to the man ahead of us, Julian Palmer. As we run up to turn 1, everyone bunching up on the left-hand side. I try to find some room on the inside then of Palmer. Doesn't work out initially, but then the second phase of the corner, we find the room. Raikkonen's been taken wide, as well as Bottas. Then really slow line for them on the outside of that corner. Meanwhile, Hamilton up ahead, and actually looks like Hülkenberg is going side by side with Sebastian Vettel for second place in the Grand Prix, as Bottas is still there on my left, going side by side with me. We just about squeeze him out, and we're up into what will now be P5 behind our teammate Daniel Ricciardo in P4. Looking at that fight, he's got a brilliant view of that fight as they still go side by side. The 2 Germans, Nico Hülkenberg now looks to actually have this up into P2 then against Sebastian Vettel. Vettel fends back. Oh, there's some contact there. Vettel sideways. Vettel's caught the half spin in the S section. What absolute awesome action that is. And Hülkenberg now has effectively barged his way past into P2. So the Renault with a really decent start, at least for Nico's side of the garage. Meanwhile, Julian Palmer down there behind Kimi Raikkonen, whereas Hamilton now kind of all calm in his world, whereas Vettel was halfway out sideways in the S section. Meanwhile, you can see we're right up the gearbox of Ricciardo. We go a little bit wide on the exit of this swooping right-hander onto the back straight, but that actually kind of helps us straighten up the car, get right up in the slipstream, tucked in behind, move to the right, then rich mix flowing, and we get up into P4 now very easily on Ricciardo. Obviously no DRS then, but pure slipstream, and that's always going to be a pretty slam dunk move there with how long that main straight is. And unfortunately it looks like Ricciardo may be running higher wings than I am this afternoon, because Bottas sends it down the inside very easily down that main straight, although Ricciardo does really well to hang it around the outside. He's not going to give this place up too easily there as he dives it back down. They still go wheel to wheel on the exit of that corner, shoves him off a little bit, and he's still going to keep P5 for now. So good stuff there from Danny Rick in P5. Meanwhile, you can see Hamilton extending his lead at the moment from Nico Hülkenberg to Sebastian Vettel, still in P3 there, trying to chase after the first Renault of Nico Hülkenberg. Meanwhile, now we move later into that same lap this is, and again, Bottas tries to make a move, this time to the inside of the hairpin, and it might work out for him. Yes, it does. In the final corner, he's finally able to overtake the Australian, and he's up into P5 himself. And now Raikkonen looks to maybe have wanting a slice of that action as he's on the left-hand side of Ricciardo. Palmer also close behind, so maybe Ricciardo is now struggling in this Grand Prix. Palmer is also trying to send it around the outside. And remember, Ricciardo is on the soft tyres, and everyone, it looks like, around him, overtaking him at this point in time, is on the super softs. Palmer down the inside, and that's going to be Palmer up the place. And so Ricciardo is going to lose 3 places in the span of literally just 1 sector on a lap. And so that is why maybe it was a great idea for us not to be on the soft tyres at the beginning of this race. And good stuff that we're on the super soft tyres, because the only man that was on soft with Daniel was this man right now, Valtteri Bottas, on soft tyres. So my bad, he was the only other soft tyre runner. But you can see now Raikkonen's passed him around the outside on those super softs, and Palmer is right there as well behind Bottas. So I don't think the soft tyres are performing at the moment at the beginning of this Grand Prix. Definitely, as you would say, not the race tyre, the ideal race tyre in this opening stint. Although with the Mercedes engine, Bottas tries his hardest to go down the inside. Palmer just watching this on. There's been some contact there, and Bottas and Raikkonen are sideways, and they tandem drift through their entry to turn 1, and Palmer has just made a double overtake there. So Palmer is really making some good progress. He's just overtaken a Red Bull, a Mercedes, and a Ferrari in the span of a lap and a half. I think if you told him that at the beginning of his F1 2017 career, back in Season 1, he would have had you on there, because that was just not possible in Season 1. So you can see what a car I held built up in Season 2 and Season 3. But that's the past. This is the now, and we're in this Red Bull trying to look at the back of Sebastian Vettel right now as they both chase after Nico Hülkenberg, sparking away Vettel here. So he's kind of got the car very set up very low to the ground, it looks like there. So not much ground clearance for him as we move into the hairpin now onto lap 5, and he's going very slowly, and I make a very late lunge there. I wasn't prepared to make the move down the inside, but Vettel was going so slowly, I may as well have gone for it. It's almost like I caught him completely napping, just focusing on Hulkenberg. And now we try the switchback move to the left-hand side of the circuit. DRS open. We were also up into rich mix, of course, and Vettel squeezing us a little bit towards the grass, narrowly missing that, really wide on the entry, and that's actually going to allow us to cut in a little bit earlier than Sebastian. He's gone wide as he wanted the inside entry, clearly, as he was squeezing us there, but that hasn't worked out for him. He's taken it wide, and he's now down the order into P3. We're up into P2, and we've actually gained one more free position, obviously, as Hulkenberg, if you would have seen on the mini-map there, has come in for his first pit stop of the afternoon, so a little bit earlier than us two. So let's see how the undercut or overcut is going to work for us this afternoon. I can't quite remember how good either one was from last season, but I guess we'll find out. But at the moment, still ahead of Vettel through the S section, then trying to build a little bit of a gap, but it's not going to work out for us. We've actually gone a little bit wide on the left-hand side, and Vettel has sent it back down the inside, out to the outside for the next double right-hander, and Vettel is going to keep this round the entire way of that section. We're still ahead of him just by half a car length there into the next brake zone, defending to the inside. Vettel takes a really wide line, and he's able to get a much better, faster entry into that corner, and I'm pretty poor there as it is around the lap against the AI. That section just before the swooping right-hander is where I'm losing the most time to the AI, at least on my qualifying lap that was the case, and where I gained the most time actually indeed in Q2. My Q2 lap time, you would have seen I gained a bunch of time there on my Q2 lap time, so that's where we've been attacked, but we've re-overtaken Vettel back up into P2 with DRS, so a pretty simple pass for us then as we enter the hairpin. You can see as we look behind us then, Julian Palmer very, very close to Vettel as well as now Bottas, and also our teammate, I think that is in the background, Daniel Ricciardo, so all of us bunching up there, a Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes and Renault. Great to see as we enter the pit lane now. Vettel continues on with Bottas, so interesting. So Hulkenberg went for a huge undercut then, that basically means, because that'll be 2 laps he's undercut Vettel and Bottas, only 1 lap to us, and obviously we're effectively undercutting Vettel and Bottas as well by 1 lap here. So good pit stop for us, obviously, no dramas there. Palmer is in now for his pit stop. Yellow flags as we come down the pit lane, so has there been any kind of stoppage there? Maybe a virtual safety car or full safety car gets called out. There's actually a car, oh, there's a car retiring on the pit exit there. Kevin Magnussen in the Haas just parks up quite nicely right there for our viewing. So that's why the yellow flags are out. No virtual safety car or anything like that for that, because actually that's quite a safe place to park up, you would imagine, because once all the cars are cleared from the pit lane, that's going to be quite a fast kind of manoeuvre for the marshals to get that car out of the way. So no safety car of any sort called out here. Now we're right up behind Stoffel Van Dorn, easily down the inside, even though he's on super softs. That's probably quite worn super softs for Stoffel there in the McLaren car, obviously trying something desperately to try and drag that McLaren up. Pretty depressing, really, that if you look at the R&D charts, they've pretty much gone nowhere in 4 seasons of this career mode so far. So him and Alonso still fighting hard for the wooden spoon, I guess you could say, ahead of Sauber. And speaking of the Sauber, I think there's a Sauber at the beginning of this train actually that may be helping us a little bit, because you can see Hulkenberg is still ahead of us, but we have actually visually caught up a little bit to in terms of how far back we are, and you can see it is a Sauber at the beginning of this train holding these guys up, and both of them going to maybe try and make a pass, but actually Hulkenberg's the one that tries to pull out to the inside to make the pass on that Williams car of Lance Stroll, trying to feed it around the outside of the hairpin. Interesting place to make the move around the outside there. Doesn't quite work out. Stroll's got the straight line speed on the Renault for now to make this, and there you can see now there's where the Sauber comes into play, holding up Stroll in the entry of the final corner. Now Stroll goes to the right hand side to overtake. Maybe Hulkenberg tries that as well as they go 2 by 2 then to the inside. It's all very, very close between all 3 of our cars. Down the inside then of the Sauber, and also the Renault, and also the Williams. What a move there. That's a triple overtake into turn 1. Stroll going very slowly on worn soft tyres. Hulkenberg gets caught up in dirty air, and the Sauber's the Sauber, and we're up the order now. And in the background there, a Ferrari of Vettel, I imagine, is trying to overtake the Sauber as well, and he has done so. But we're up the order now by 3 places. Absolutely awesome work. Very efficient overtake then for us. So then on to the next lap, lap 10. We try to build a gap to the cars behind us, and meanwhile Vettel, who did clear that Sauber, is now trying to clear Hulkenberg right up his gearbox, and Hulkenberg has been forced into a mistake, a double lockup for him. Meanwhile, in the background there on the right hand side, that was Julian Palmer making a move down the inside of Kimi Räikkönen, I think that was. Yes, Palmer has just overtaken Kimi, and he's up the order as well. So both Renaults having a bit of a stark contrast actually in this race. Palmer is actually looking more comfortable than Hulkenberg is at this stage of the Grand Prix. Now Sebastian Vettel sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, and he has overtaken Hulkenberg and is getting moving on that second set of super soft tyres. So Vettel going very aggressive in this Grand Prix then, with 2 sets of super softs to kick things off rather than going to a set of soft tires like I'm on. And now he made that, just use that set of super softs to good advantage. We've locked up quite badly into that left-hander, and that's given us a really poor exit. And Vettel is going to maybe try and send this around the outside. We're going to go defensive to the inside line, and we're going tight on the apex, trying to go wide and open up the steering, but it's no use. Vettel's actually got the traction on the outside, obviously using the super softs to good effect. He's on the inside now of the S section. We're trying our best to hang it to the outside, which will turn to the inside of the next corner, but you can see he's actually got us before we even make the right-hander then, and Vettel really flexing the muscles now of those super softs and also the Ferrari car. Still technically the fastest car, or should be the fastest car on this grid in Season 4. If you look at the R&D charts, Mercedes still aren't even the fastest car. It's meant to be Ferrari, so just a little inkling on maybe how poor of a job Vettel and Raikkonen have been doing, or also, you got to say, from last race, how unlucky they've been getting. So, anyways, we move on through the laps then. After we got overtaken by Vettel, unfortunately, it was a case of kind of looking behind us a bit more than actually looking ahead. As you can see, down that straight, Hulkenberg seemingly having a bit better straight line speed than us, even though we did have DRS from Vettel. But then as we move on to lap 14, we have a lack of that DRS, and Hulkenberg is the only one of the two of us with it. So he moves to the left-hand side. We move to the inside then, on the right-hand side of this main straight to defend to the inside. But this may be a bit of a slam dunk move for Hulkenberg. We're going to try our best to break as late as we can. To be fair, the first phase of the corner we're still ahead, but then on the exit, Hulkenberg just has so much better traction around the outside then, and he's able to get that even before the brake zone for the final corner. We cut in a little bit earlier to the curbing there, and we opened up DRS, trying to maybe follow Hulkenberg towards turn 1 to maybe make a re-overtaking move into turn 1. So we move on to lap 15 now, so we've only got 13 laps left of this Grand Prix to make this pass and maybe make it count, to maybe get some clean air to chase after Vettel will have any hope of maybe getting a podium that is slowly slipping away from us. We get on the curbing though, on the inside then, you saw that really compromised our line, and then on the exit, Hulkenberg's able to pull away then in the traction zone. I'm going a little bit opposite lock as the rain, I think, is starting to come down at this stage. You can see that kind of sheen on the circuit kind of present there again, and you can see onto the end of that lap, I follow Hulkenberg in. I wasn't actually ready for us to come into the pit stops, but I just saw him move straight, continue straight on, and I just thought I'll follow him in. I may as well do that because last time he got a little bit of an undercut on us, and so I'd rather just cover him off here, and we have the potential maybe to overtake him in the pit lane here because the Red Bull guys should be better on the pit stop. We saw last time at Australia the Renault guys weren't too good, and there you go, there it is, my old team not too great on the pit stop compared to Red Bull Racing, and we're able to make a very easy pass in the pit lane then, and Hulkenberg is onto a set of medium tyres. So Hulkenberg's doing a 2-stop, but is still using the white wall medium tyres, which is very, very odd because remember, Renault have that really good tyre wear that I upgraded 4 times last season for them. So that is a bit of an odd one. Yellow flag's out again, but we're up into now P8, but that will effectively turn into P4 then, or should do, you would imagine, obviously, as we were fighting for P4 with Hulkenberg before the pit stops then, and it looks like everyone's going to come in with on lap 17 with 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Like I said, the rain coming down may just be a case of like Austria last season, where it's coming down, yes, you can clearly see on screen, but it's not going to be damp enough for anyone to risk it onto Inters. And now you can see we close up to Daniel Ricciardo, who is on a 1-stop here. He started on soft tyres, now is on mediums. He's going to the end of this Grand Prix, and you can see the 2-stop has ended up being faster here this afternoon. Down the inside, even with a lock-up on the right front, you can see Ricciardo, just add in a lack of grip on the mediums anyway, as he's gone quite a long way on that set of tyres. And then also you got the spits of rain on the track, making the track damp. Those two combination, Ricciardo going very slow into that corner, and so we're up the order into P6. We've also got Massa trying a 1-stop here, so a little bit of action actually for us today with the 2-stop, having to make some overtakes, whereas Australia, obviously, we were kind of ahead of everyone, so we didn't have to make any overtakes, as it were, for the 2-stop to actually work out there. As Haas is stricken on the left-hand side there as we entered Sector 3. We then move on to the end of the lap, out to lap 18. 10 laps to go now in this Grand Prix. We're right at the back now, Felipe Massa, as we enter turn 1, gaining even more time. You can see a little bit of a wobble from him mid-corner, and just like we did earlier on to Stroll, his teammate, we're down the inside very easily, and we're up into P4, and that is the position that we had before, and so that may be the highest we get today, as Vettel was really in a class of his own after he got away from us. Once he overtook us, clean air for that Ferrari, streaked away, really used that downforce he had. As we move later in the Grand Prix though, bit of misery for my teammate Daniel Ricciardo, as Hulkenberg now is going to be the one to overtake him. You can see my Red Bull car just up the road there, but Ricciardo defenseless pretty much against Nico, and so he's down the order, showing us today the 1-stop this time round really was not the way to go, especially with the damp conditions now, and Ricciardo really suffering because of that. Obviously Ricciardo, he had a pretty slow start to the race, so that didn't help him out quite a bit, but obviously, as I said, the soft tyre appeared to be very much not the race tire to be on, and so he's kind of suffered the pain, double pain really, of now being on the medium tires, which look even worse. Meanwhile, we've got Jolly and Palmer now in the dying stage of the Grand Prix, trying to make a double overtake this will be, but looks like that Force India has that covered off. Then into turn 1, Palmer just slots in between the Toro Rosso and the Force India, but pretty decent effort for Palmer today. Really did show some great overtaking moves and just kind of being very aware of his surroundings earlier on in the Grand Prix, you've got to say, after going down the inside of Bottas and Raikkonen, as it were. And as we move on to lap 21, very surprising for me, we are catching up to Esteban Ocon then the entire way through onto lap 22, and he was in 3rd place, and we overtake him and we're up into P3. So surprise podium at the last few minutes of this Grand Prix, in terms of after this there's kind of no overtaking to do, unfortunately for us to say, because Vettel and Hamilton were in the world of their own. But we get up into P3 then, and I didn't actually realise that we were going to get a podium. I really thought it was out of our question today, but I didn't kind of realise that, I hadn't counted how many cars there actually were to pass, maybe, in terms of who was ahead of us. And somehow Bottas and Raikkonen have really fallen away from looking like they were near the podium, whereas obviously at the very beginning of the Grand Prix they looked pretty damn close. Meanwhile now, we just watched Palmer trying to overtake the Force India. It doesn't look like he's able to do it though, and he's going to keep behind even with DRS, but his teammate on the other hand is going to overtake the Force India car of Esteban Ocon. This will be down the inside he goes on the right hand side, DRS open I would imagine, because even though it's wet, it's still, as I said, not wet enough for inters, and so the FIA probably think it's still safe enough for the DRS to be open on these cars. And Hülkenberg just about has to squeeze out Ocon then to get the job done, but he is up into P4 then, that'll be an Ocon down to P5. So the Renault car, even though not the lofty heights of winning a race like Australia, this man will be winning the race. I think Lewis Hamilton in a world of his own. Vettel's in a world of his own compared to me, but Hamilton's in another universe this race. He's really done the job, and just been the master of China this entire race. Ever since turn 1, lap 1, he's just waltzed away from anyone in this Grand Prix. But clearly the Renault is still pretty damn decent to be up there overtaking cars like that very easily, up into P4 then for Hülkenberg. But we come across the line for a very, very decent podium then, I would say, to join Vettel and Hamilton. And remember, with Hülkenberg still being there, it's not going to be a major, major jump for the championship, but good to start off here. A lot more consistent than that man on the left-hand side, Sebastian Vettel, you would say. Because now at the moment, if you look at the Drivers' Championship, we're 4 points behind Nico Hülkenberg, but we're still 1-2 in the championship, which is absolutely still, like I said last time out, awesome to see. I'm loving this dynamic of me being a new team and still fighting my old team at Hülkenberg in that improved Renault. I'm really going to enjoy this dynamic, and I hope it continues. Like I said, I hope Renault don't fall off the pace, and we can continue this dynamic, because we've effectively got 4 teams now at the moment battling for the constructors and battling out this season, because we've got the Renault there, Mercedes, myself in the Red Bull, and Ferrari now picked up the pace and finally got some points on the board. And you've got to say Force India not looking too far behind actually, so could be 5 teams. You never know. You never know if Force India have another boost by another patch maybe mid-season or anything like that. We saw they pretty much got steroids from that 1.9 patch, so we'll see, but really looking forward to the rest of the season. It's shaping up to be really, really good in these first 2 episodes. So guys, if you have enjoyed that, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly forum content. Now before we go, one final thing though, that upgrade we were talking about at the beginning of the episode then. So after we got the points, we've got enough to make one minor upgrade to the departments. Now, I kind of looked at everything and assessed the different departments where we were. In terms of the engine, I did have a look at maybe doing an engine upgrade to maybe go towards that major one on the top or the left-hand side. But actually, in reality, using Rich Mix, our car wasn't too bad in straight line. And so I'd rather go for downforce, because really, looking at how fast Vettel got away from us after he overtook us, it was very apparent that, yes, even though we're Red Bull, we still don't have the downforce to match the Ferrari Mercedes car. Neither do Renault, really. And in a proper thoroughbred circuit like China compared to a street circuit like Australia, that showed very much. The weakness showed of both our teams. So I think we're, doing front downforce is going to help us in that sense, and also will allow us to run a lower wing then, actually, in reality, and then probably get a bit better straight line speed. So that's what I'm going to go for. And then from now on, I think probably for future, talking long term, I think I'm going to be looking more at the chassis side of things, because we've got 2 efficiency upgrades that Red Bull did as an AI team, and also we saw from season 3 on the Renault, the chassis weight reductions, once you get to the major ones, are so bloody good. They're almost OP in terms of how much speed you gain just having a lighter chassis. So I think we're going to go for that for pretty much a lot of the season, and then we may have to look into reliability, because of course Red Bull have only done 1 upgrade on the internal combustion engine. But yeah, that's been this episode then. So again, hit that like button if you did enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.